Hello everyone, welcome back to the Ranting Shop. Now we're going to be discussing the last and final episode of Ready to Love Reunion Part 2. Okay, so we left off where Uncle Tommy was asking Kyra whether she'd pursue something with AJ or not. And because of the situation with Alexis happened, she decided she's not going to pursue anything with him anymore. And I suppose it could be cool and be friends, but nothing intimate or romantic is gonna be taking place. So somebody said something, and I also agree. Kyra has been looking for an excuse for her not to really date AJ for a long time, and that looked like perfect timing for her to get a perfect explanation as to why she does not want to move forward with AJ. It just seemed like she was never that interested. Other people kept saying, oh, she wants him to fix up, or she wants him, but she wants this to happen and that to happen. Maybe, but I like to go more so on the lines of she was just never that interested in him and was looking for excuses for her not to have to deal or be with him. And she got a perfect excuse via Alexis, and that gave her the little ammunition that she wanted to leave, to not have to feel the pressure of pursuing something with somebody she just did not want to pursue anything with. Miss Simone, though, spilled some tea about Alexis, and she mentions that when Alexis was going out with AJ during the time that Kyra was in another country, that Alexis actually was intimate with AJ during that period of time. So imagine a woman that is already clingy, that is already very much desperate and very smitten by a man. You already all that without even having any sexual relations with him. Now, that's allegedly. It could possibly be that they did sleep together during the show. And me, knowing females, know that when we are intimate with people, it makes us even more attached. People term the condition or the situation to be soul ties. I'm not sure. However, when women do sleep with guys or they do allow that level of intimacy to take place, it makes women extremely vulnerable, and it makes them very insecure, and it makes them highly emotional, because now you want that man to be your end all be all. Now you want that man to marry you. Now you want that man to be committed to you because you give him a part of yourself that you feel like deserves commitment in return. But if, like Alexis, you're going into a situation knowing that this man did not choose you, left you in a room for 2 hours, never showed any amount of interest in you, yet you DM'd him, not even called. So it appears that she didn't even have his number. She DM'd him and asked him for closure. He stated that it was what it was real at that moment. She then took it upon herself to mean, okay, he still loves me, he's still interested in me. And he took her out and got the benefits from taking her out for that 2 weeks. Whether it's accurate or 100% factual that they slept together, I'm not sure. If she did, that was a dumb move on her part. And it makes so much sense why Ron would say that he thought she was smarter than that, because we all thought she'd be smarter than to sleep with somebody that has not shown her any type of loyalty, any type of commitment, any type of interest. If she did do that, then a lot as far as me asking her that question of, well, if you didn't know about Kyra, why did you call Kyra and all these things? Because it's like, the more you hear about that situation, the worse Alexis looks. So I suppose it would do her better to not answer a question like that, because there's no way she'd be able to answer that question truthfully and her not look like a fool doing that. So there we have it. Then they move on to Troy. Now, last episode, Ron got a lot of flack for, I suppose, exaggerating a lot of things and stirring up a lot of chaos. However, I already told people and I predicted that Troy would not get the same amount of hate, and he would not get the same amount of vitriol, and he would not get the same amount of grilling from Tommy or the other cast members as Troy did. In fact, what Troy did was considered funny, and it was considered a light moment on the show. That's why there was a lot of laughing when it came to Troy and his kissing moves and his selling dreams to these women. It was funny. But however, it came across so disgustingly sleazy on the show that it's amazing that they took such a light approach to dealing with it. You know, I definitely recall him giving these women, touching these women when they didn't want to be touched, kissing them when they didn't necessarily want to be kissed. They did want their trips though. We can't lie about that. They did want their trips. They were enthused by that. They were interested in those trips. Like, if you're gonna say that they weren't, that's a big lie. So they were. So if you're trying to get these women, all you had to do was continue on promising them trips, and I'm pretty sure one of them would eventually give him what he wanted. But all that extra stuff he was doing with the kissing and the touching people unwantedly gave me our vibes. Like, what are you doing? It didn't come off looking good. His excuse was, oh, I had a limited time to make connections. You had a limited time to make connections, and that's the approach you take. Oh, let me kiss all of them. Oh, let me tell all of them dreams. So it seemed as if the way he approached the situation was to see how many women he could win over, as opposed to how many women he could make genuine connections with. Absolutely disgusting. And towards the ending of the show, it seemed as if he was trying to get on the DC cast. Let's hope not. Let's hope not. We don't want to see Troy anymore, because I feel like he hasn't learned his lesson, although he says he has, and he's gonna continue to be a sleazy, disgusting man, you know. Andrea, they talk about the cat. It was a funny moment. She finally got her cat, thank goodness, and everything is okay with her and the cat. She said she learned to be more open and more assertive, because the feedback she got from the guys on the show was that she was a bit too closed off. Then we move over to Jason, and he talked about the depression thing, and Kyra and him bonded on that. And she felt like Jason was not her safe space, because she felt like during the meal deliberation, when the guys chose her, it shifted something in the dynamic of her and Jason's relationship. A lot of people felt like it would, because Jason doesn't seem to like taking risk and liking to compete. And people are trying to say, oh, because he's a basketball player, he must like competition. I mean, there's competition in sports, and competition in dating is another ball game. And I don't like when people put these two situations together, because I don't feel like they're similar at all. So she said she needed to feel like there was a safe space for her to be vulnerable, and she didn't feel that. So she felt like, you want me to give you something that you wasn't giving me. So she felt like Jason wanted all this validation, and he wanted to be her number one and all these things, but he wasn't giving her that same validation. And she did say that she was always choosing Jason, so she did give him some type of thing. It's not like she was like, I don't know. She gave him the somewhat of a little bit of assurance that I have been picking you. But then again, as I said before, they both didn't want to say for sure, you're my number one. It's like, as we said last time, Jason was looking for leadership and direction from Kyra. Everything was in Kyra's basket at that point. For some reason, she didn't see it that way, and she wanted her process to take place. She's mentioning, oh, she wanted to take it to the end. Jason is like, this is the end. You know, after this, I have to make my decision. And because she never gave him this clear direction, he went with his short choice, Liz. There's nothing wrong with that. It is what it is. People are saying that it wasn't even that Jason chose Liz, it was that Liz chose Jason. And I see that perspective as well. Because, in a sense, it feels as if she had already made herself available to him. And so that made his choice easier. And I believe that's what he meant when he said that Liz made it easy for him to pursue her, because she made it known that it was him that she wanted. Kyra felt like her indecisiveness was her being transparent and open and honest to Jason. And she feels like Jason did not reciprocate that honesty. And I see that. He was not as transparent. Let's look at it this way. It's easier from Kyra's point of view, from Kyra's standpoint, to be transparent. Because in your transparency, you were not being 100% black and white. You were still in a gray area. So it's easy for you to say, oh, I'm not sure, because you're not showing your hand. You are vulnerable, but you haven't laid it out on the line. You haven't shown a card. But he, I suppose, felt like he couldn't be as transparent with Kyra, because he also wasn't sure. And so when he did make his decision, it was at a point where it was to the last minute, to the last second. So in a sense, he could not show his hand to Kyra, because he himself was struggling with his decision up until that point, because Kyra refused to make up her mind. So she was asking of him something that he couldn't give her, because like her, he wasn't sure. He wasn't sure up until the last second. So it wasn't as big of a situation as Kyra is making it out to be. I just feel like at the end of the day, Kyra feels played. And she wants Jason to take accountability for her feeling played, but she doesn't want to take accountability for her part in hurting her own self. Then we have the situation with David and Stacy, and they talk about the transparency thing. It ended up being somewhat of a miscommunication in that David was speaking on a marriage level and Stacy was speaking on a build up to a marriage level. She felt as if she should be able to have certain things to herself, like her personal diaries, her passwords and stuff like that. And Jason felt like in a marriage, David felt like in a marriage there should be no secrets, there should be no level of privacy, you know. So it seemed to be a miscommunication, because when Tommy asked the cast whether you'd be open to sharing your passwords with your partner, the majority of them raised their hands. Okay, so that's just that and David. Now Joel and Verneashia, you guys, some people were holding on to hope, like they were holding, like, you know, when you're drowning and you're holding on to a bit of grass that you see, you know that grass is not going to give you the amount of support you need to pull you up, but you're still holding on to it, hoping. We all knew Joel and Verneashia would not make it. We saw the shift in Joel's body language. We saw the shift in his attitude toward Verneashia. You know, the body language looked distant off the bat. She is holding herself. He is over there. It was very apparent that they didn't make it. After 2 weeks after filming, they were done. She said he changed. She said he slowed down, whereas she wanted to continue at that same pace that they were going on the show. And we know that it's a fast-paced show. She felt like Joel was downplaying the relationship between her and him, and she's saying that she's getting all this information from Cass, and I hate that she didn't, I understand why, but I hate that she didn't mention who she was getting that information from. She felt like Joel was making it seem like she was moving at such a fast pace, she was moving so ahead of him, when she feels like she felt like he was moving at the same pace she was moving. That's not what we saw on the show, but she's been saying in various interviews that she and him had been moving at the same pace. So after everything happened, they had a talk. Joel said that he had no intention of dating anybody else but Verneashia. However, he was going out with Chrysanthemum, going out with Stacy, going out with A, B, C, and D, where she's now thinking, okay, but you just told me that you're only interested in pursuing me, but then you're out with everybody else. So she felt kind of like Joel kind of was deceptive towards her in that regard, because she felt like, well, if you want to be out here dealing with Tom, Dick, and Harry, or Toma, Dicka, and Harrier, you should have at least let me know that that is where you wanted to be. Don't tell me that you want to be exclusive, but you're being single out in these streets. Because if I knew that you wanted to be out in these streets, I would have been okay with it, because I would also be out in these streets. So Verneashia felt very much played by Joel. Verneashia is talking about how Stacy was touching his chest, and Stacy's like, huh? I didn't touch his chest. So all the information Verneashia is getting is from an outside source. Who it was, I have no idea. It wasn't Chrysanthemum. I feel like it was probably Amber, because Amber always looks so messy in all the situations, but they just never get into the nitty-gritty of her. So Stacy felt like she got like a nasty vibe from Verneashia, because Verneashia is thinking that Joel and Stacy are having something, but Stacy feels like she's not having anything with Joel. So that's where I suppose that territorial, clingy vibes Joel got from her comes from, because I suppose we all saw it in that particular reunion. Felt like he was in a dictatorship with Verneashia. Verneashia, you know, I was like, oh, I want to spend time in your house, I want to come to your home. And Joel felt like that was too soon, because remember, Joel has 2 children whose other parent has since died. So to introduce another woman into the household so soon, I understand where he's coming from with that, because I would also be very careful with introducing somebody I feel like I barely know into a situation with my children that has lost a parent. It's not an easy transition, so I understand that. But Verneashia felt like she was good enough to be intimate with, but not good enough to introduce her children to. So she felt also very much disrespected as a result of that as well. Joel felt like it was too soon to introduce her to his home. Then there was a situation with Amber. Amber offered to take Joel out somewhere, because I guess Joel's family member died, and they're trying to say that Verneashia felt as if, or I suppose kind of threatened Amber a bit and said, well, I wouldn't have appreciated it if you had went out with Joel, just the 2 of you guys. And I suppose just bringing that point across kind of, I don't want to say justifies, but it gives somewhat of a justification as to that clinginess, that territorialness, that dictatorship that Joel was talking about, and he just did not want to be a part of that. So they asked like whether they wanted to work it out because everybody was rooting for them, including me. It seemed like they were a perfect couple. However, they just were not meant to be with each other. It's like a type of situation where they look good on paper, they even look good visually, but personality restrictions. They were just two different types of people. So he's not interested in pursuing anything. Verneashia seems like she's still open to something. She wanted to give us some kind of rope, some type of thing, that, but he's not interested. So she took it really hard. She was crying backstage. Her good friend Dietrich was trying to, hear her out, trying to kind of persuade her to give it another shot. But if he doesn't want anything, there's no pursuing anything. It's not a one-sided situation. So somebody said that he was interested and loved the way her body looked, but her mouth, her tongue, the way she says things, how she, she does not, she's very open when she speaks. She says how she feels, and he was attracted to her outer, but was not so interested in her tongue and what she had to say and how she said things. So somebody said they wish that she hadn't been so emotional on the stage, because she said that men will oftentimes use your raw emotion against you. And I suppose he did, because we did see, based on her just feeling hurt and reacting how she reacted, a bit of that justification for Joel's not wanting to pursue her. We saw that. But my big question is, who was the bug in Venetia's ear? Who was telling Venetia all that stuff? That person was being really messy. That person was being very messy. And of course, she would not say who the person was, but I don't even want to speculate. I have no idea. Alright, so that's them. Their relationship is no more. Then we have Liz and Jason, and they're still together. We're not surprised. But first, they spoke about Liz and David and the whole situation, especially when it came to the final altercation where he was standing and looking like he was in somewhat of a dominating stance, and people didn't like that from him, because people already got the impression that he was a very dominant and controlling person. So he was trying to say that, they have some disagreements. Liz is saying that he did say the thing about kissing Jason in front of their friends. She felt disrespected. He said that wasn't his intention, and they're just going back and forth, and he's gonna be adamant on his stance, she's gonna be adamant on her stance. There's no understanding there. However, they kind of came to a conclusion, and Tommy mentions the fact that you were comfortable with sending all these people home, but for some reason you refused to just let that happen. And he was trying to say, oh well, it's because he wanted to self-eliminate, and Tommy was like, if you want to self-eliminate, you had to go through me to self-eliminate. You can't just self-eliminate. So he's saying he felt like it was in their best interest for him to remove himself from the situation, because he said that Liz had mentioned to him that when she gets close to a guy, they leave. He didn't want to get close to her and leave because he wasn't feeling the same feelings like her, so he took himself out of the situation. They hug it out, another awkward hug, because she's sitting, he's standing, that same dominating stance. It was a little bit awkward in the beginning, but she eventually stood up and they hugged each other. Awkward hug, but they hugged each other. Then we move on to Jason and Liz, and I never realized how much people were riding for Jason and Liz until I saw like a interview or a review one time, and people were coming at anybody that had anything negative to say about Liz and Jason. People were coming for them, and I was like, where is all this energy coming from? I thought people had the right to have opinions. A lot of people didn't think Jason was genuine. I still don't think Jason is genuine. I feel like Liz is a little bit, she did come across a bit desperate, because at the end of the day, she lowered her standards for Jason. Jason is not what she wanted, but she got him, and I suppose they're good together. If they like each other, that's awesome. If they're gonna date each other, that's beautiful, that's amazing. I just have my little hesitancies here and there. She's saying that he has a strong spiritual foundation. Okay, I feel like at that point, she's just reaching for straws. She's just reaching for justification for why she should continue on a relationship with Jason. I just don't feel like Jason is that person that is for her, but I guess for the show it looks good. They mentioned being affectionate, as in kissing and hugging and stuff like that, but him respecting her boundaries, because as she said, she doesn't want to have any sexual intimacy yet until they get married. He says he knows her boundaries and he's not trying to push the issue. So there you have it. They're dating exclusively. They're always panning over to Kyra to see Kyra's reaction. Kyra's just smiling, because it's like, if you do anything else but smile, people are gonna have something negative to say about her. So the best thing she could have done was just smile. Okay, just smile, because people would always have something to say. If she laughed, they would have something to say. If she looked serious, they'd have something to say. So if she looked sad, they'd have something to say. So the best thing she could have done was smile. They've met each other's family and they're dating. And what I noticed in that show is that they're trying to push people to say that they're in serious relationships. Don't do that. That's toxic. These people have barely known each other and you want them to hurry up and be together, hurry up and be married. Calm down. Calm the hell down. Because it's really funny how a lot of people are like, oh, it's only 4 weeks. Why is she talking about this? Oh, it's only this. Why is she... But the show perpetuates that. That's what they want. They push for that. As much as it's unrealistic, that's what the show pushes for. So you can't blame people for the contestants for wanting what the show pushes for them to have. Okay? So yes, I completely understand why Jason and Liz have all these fans. Whether they will stay together, we're going to see how that works out for them in the long run. People are saying that they feel like Jason is performative and Liz is desperate. We shall see. As I said before, I understand why they get all this love. Jason, the nice guy, has finally won because he's gotten himself. And Liz has won because the nice girl has finally got the guy. So there was this dynamic between the sexy, popular girl, Kyra, and the good, humble, Christian girl, Liz. And most times in movies, the beautiful, sexy girl always gets the guy. However, in this case, she got the guy. The unlikely person got the guy. So I feel like that's a big reason why people are so much rooting for them. And also they consider Jason a nice guy. So a nice guy and a nice girl together, people don't want that situation to be tainted, to be ridiculed, to be spoken down upon. Only praise, only good things. And I understand. Okay, let's quickly talk about the endings. When everybody was saying what will they do moving forward and so on. David said he's dating. Alexis says she's at peace. AJ will continue to date, will continue to put himself forward. Chrysanthemum will continue to date. Now, one thing jumped out to me was when they moved over to KG and Amber and they asked what their expectation, what are they going to do. All he said was redemption. That's it, redemption. So that's why I keep telling people, KG, his purpose for coming on this particular season a second time was for his redemption. It was a redemption story. And producers would not allow him to go on this show a second time and not redeem himself. So they made Amber be that person that would take him to the end. That's why the relationship is just not genuine. This relationship was a producer-based, formed, delivered, packaged relationship. That's why it's not genuine to me. And I don't think anybody... If people buy their relationship, then that's them and their gullibleness. Me, I don't buy it. It was strictly for KG's what? Redemption. What? Redemption. He got that. And that was the sole purpose. Do I see that relationship lasting beyond this? No. Why? Because she no longer serves the purpose of being his redemption story. They might be together, date a couple months, but longevity? Not at all. Okay, you guys. So that's what I meant to say. Bye. Okay, anyways, you guys, that was it. This was the final episode of Ready to Love. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think that it was a wonderful reunion? Do you feel like it was boring? The cast behind the scenes say the reunion was so boring and long, and they talked about them not being fed, and they talked about not even being able to drink alcohol. So it looked like a mess. Last season they also complained about food. Even if they did get food, the food was cold, and they called the thing a budget show. Okay, that may very well be the case. Anyways, you guys, that's it. Let me know what you think about the reunion. I thought it was very underwhelming. Again, not shocked by anything I saw. People were holding out hope for Vern and Joel. I knew better, and it is what it is. Anyways, you guys, like, subscribe. We're moving into Love and Marriage Huntsville. Cannot wait. Like, subscribe, and see you next time. Bye bye.